I want to try to give you an advantage for 2026 in regards to the rookie class, because if you play your cards right now, it could set you up for success this Dynasty offseason and with your rookie picks around rookie draft times. Because we talk about this a lot, but picks in Dynasty, rookie picks in Dynasty, have a very cyclical type schedule, which they're pretty much set to every single year. And if you play the market right, you can end up having a big advantage. Picks always gradually increase from September, which we've already, has already passed. We're kind of in the middle of this, to April of any given season. It kind of goes like this a little bit. We'll talk about this. But what you need to know most importantly is this. As soon as the offseason hits in Dynasty Fantasy Football, people are no longer thinking about how can I win? How can I win my championship? How can I win games? How can I score the most points? How can I upgrade my flex positions? And people are typically only thinking about one thing: the NFL draft, because as Dynasty players, we can't really think past what's next on our schedule. So the combine, rookie analysis, the NFL draft becomes the next biggest thing for everybody who's a sicko like you and me. It's all we think about, and it's all we talk about. And the, April and May period of Dynasty Fantasy Football, in my opinion, is even bigger than the in-season stuff. In fact, it's the total opposite in Dynasty, where Dynasty is actually bigger for us as somebody who makes content in May and April than it is even during the season. And so you have to kind of take advantage of people's mindsets when you're thinking about how people are valuing picks. And so you can give yourself an advantage by buying 2026 picks now. We've talked about this a lot, the value of 2026 picks relative to 2027 picks. And, it's still kind of where you see 2027 picks in general being valued much higher than 2026 picks. Now, I think for early first, this is somewhat warranted. I think Jeremiah Smith is obviously a generational prospect. I do wonder past the 101 how much different these two classes will be, because we'll talk about early 2026 first and how this year's early 2026 class is actually being undervalued. But if you're looking, for example, at a first-round pick, let's look at this year's 2026 first on Keep Trade Cut. Again, using Keep Trade Cut for the sake of tracking the market value of something, not actually using the trade calculator rankings. But if you're just looking at the graph here, you started to see a slow uptick in the value of an early 2026 first. And Dynasty players, at the end of the day, do not care about the strength of a class when the offseason hits. They only care about the fact that they have a pick or they don't have a pick, and that all that we have to focus on is rookies. Regardless of if a class is very good or very bad or somewhere in between, Dynasty players always look at it, and it makes them excited, and it makes them want to buy rookie picks just because there's nothing else going on. We're playing Dynasty because we're bored, because we miss football. And so you can kind of take advantage of people's mindsets when they think that way. But the general pick hype timeline kind of goes like this. In season, picks are more on the low end of hype and value, and so people are not going to elevate them. Contending teams are going to use rookie picks to go and make their teams better. And reloading teams are like, I'll kind of see where my pick is, but, it's fine. Then the season ends. And really, you actually see a bigger spike in like January with rookie pick values than you see sometimes even in April. And so that's worth considering as well. When you get to January of this year, your rookie picks, they're going to be as valuable, almost as valuable as they are during the draft, which is crazy. But typically that's when we see in our startup drafts, which we do all off season, you typically see the rookie picks actually go a little bit higher in January because it's all people are thinking about. So the spike after the season ends, it kind of flattens out after the Super Bowl ends. We're in that dead period between the Super Bowl and the Combine. It's about a 3-week period before the Combine. The NFL Combine gives them a big boost because now we have storylines, we have numbers, things to talk about. Dynasty players are nerds like you and me, and so we get to talk about all these different things that happen at the Combine. So you see a big boost in pick value then. And then the NFL Draft is kind of where it shares a peak with, again, I think early in the offseason are kind of the two peaks for Dynasty rookie picks. And so how can you actually use this to your advantage? For 2026 in particular, I just want to kind of talk about this. These firsts are still undervalued in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And I get there are plenty of knocks on this class. And I'm going to talk about what this class is really going to be really good for and what's going to be really bad for, and how you can kind of go ahead and take advantage of that now. But I will say this in particular, early 2026 firsts are undervalued in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. So I think it's a great time to try and go acquire those 2026 firsts, those early firsts from people who have them. And it might be tough, right? Because you're going to have rebuilders, reloaders that have early firsts. But if you give them a package good enough for a rebuild, reload to take, and we're going to talk about that, then maybe they'll bite. But in general, any top 4 pick in Dynasty right now that any of your league mates are open to selling, it's something you should be inquiring about. And I'll kind of give you an example as to why from a value standpoint. But the 101 through 104, in my opinion, are huge buys right now. Maybe the biggest buy any asset is in Dynasty right now are those rookie picks 101 through 104 through 2026. And so I have an example here. We did a real money Dynasty startup draft just a couple days ago, mid-season. Never done this before, but it was very interesting because they drafted rookie picks. They drafted kickers, so every kicker in this draft on this draft board is a rookie pick, and I wanted to just see where they'd go. Well, let me talk about this first. I mean, let's put player names to picks because to some extent you can do this. The 211 here at the 211 is where we got rookie pick 101. If you can buy the 101 at that price, anybody in that price range, because he went around really Burrow, McBride, Genty, Herbert, Marv, Garrett Wilson, even JT and Hampton. Buy. Jeremiah Love is that good. He's that good. I think he's going to be a 1-2 turn guy. Like, I think he is that freaking good. I just, and look, I don't like Notre Dame. I'm an IU fan. I just don't love Notre Dame. I don't love their fans. Like, I don't love, that everybody in my state, roots for Notre Dame. I love that. I don't love that all Notre Dame fans are from, different parts of the country. So there's no bias in this at all. Truthfully, I think he is, first of all, he is the locked-in 101 in this class, in my opinion. I will take him 101 no matter what. But this is a cheap price for him. I truthfully think he could be as high as the running back 2 in Dynasty right away. I think he could be the running back 1. And that's not just me having rookie fever, because I fully understand that sometimes we take these rookies and we elevate them too high with too high of expectations coming in the NFL. Jeremiah Love could legitimately be I think in my opinion, he will be a top 3 running back in Dynasty as soon as he's drafted. He's legit. A lot of people want to ask how I compare him to Genty. I think he's better. I personally think he's better. I personally like him more as a prospect than I like Genty as a prospect. And part of the reason is because of what he's doing against, Power 5 or Power 2 or whatever opponents. I know Notre Dame technically doesn't have a conference, but you're seeing a much higher level of competition in Jeremiah Love. And by the way, Jadarian Price is very good as well, but Love is just fantastic. And so for the early first in particular, even going past the 101 though, Tyson, Tate, and Lemon are all extremely strong and safe picks in my opinion in this year's class. When you're looking at the bakery scores for all 3 of these guys, they're all in the green tier or higher. You have Jordan Tyson in the purple tier, actually. And so he in particular is being graded. Oh, sorry, not the purple tier. He's in the blue tier. He would be the bottom guy in the blue tier, which would put him historically. We've got data going back to, I think, 2015 in this database. That would put him as the wide receiver 12 of all of these guys. And so in the same tier as guys like JSN, Drake London, DJ Moore, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson. And notice that the guys in these top 2 tiers, the purple tier and the blue tier here in the bakery, literally have a 100% hit rate. Like they just Marv technically is not a hit yet, but he will hit. Trust me, he's gonna hit. I'll die on that hill. Whatever. Tyson's in this blue tier. Tyson's gonna get first round draft capital. I think Tyson's gonna be a top 10 pick, and so it's what it looks like to me. I think he's a top 10 prospect in this class, and so you're talking about him at the 102. Okay, now let's keep going though. Because if you've paid attention at all recently, you've noticed that when people are, you've got draft analysts releasing their big boards, things like that, but also just discussion among scouts and GMs and things like that. And Carnell Tate of Ohio State is now getting top 10 buzz as well. If I had to guess at the end of the day, I think that Carnell Tate is going to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. Guaranteed. And I'll tell you this, and I think a lot of you guys are on the same page as me with this. I'm not passing on another Ohio State wide receiver. Carnell Tate's legit. Very George Pickens-esque in the sense that, kind of that elite body control. I think he's like, a lot of people say he's a better version of George Pickens, which analytically that does check out actually. But I think he's almost a lock at this point to get top 15 draft capital. And so you've got another top 15 wide receivers. Top 15 wide receivers guys are very, very good. This class reminds me a little bit of 2022, where you had Drake London, Garrett Wilson, J-Mo, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, and George Pickens. George Pickens was also in that green tier. And so he actually does compare a little bit to Carnell Tate. But in that class, the thing was you had 6 guys. In this class right now, you have 4 with KC Concepcion and Chris Bell. They're kind of threatening to join that tier as we get into this. But regardless, when you're looking at this mock draft and where these top 4 picks went, you're talking about Mekhi Lemon is going to be a first-round wide receiver. Jordan Tyson will be a first-round wide receiver, and Carnell Tate, and probably all like top 18. And I would say Tate and Tyson have top 10 upside. And so those are like guarantee picks, you guys. And I again, like, I'm well aware of the pitfalls of this class. We're going to get there. Trust me, I'm not just piping hype on this class. I understand it has weaknesses, and we're going to get there. The top is not a weakness in this class. The top of this class, as good as last year's class was, the top of this class is actually comparable to it. And so, the 101 through 104, 211 for the 101. The 102 went at the 310 in this draft, next to Ladd, Caleb Williams. I personally think whoever you're drafting there between like Ladd, Rome, and Nico, Like, I think you have a very strong reason to take him there, and really any of the other two wide receivers, and you see that in the 103 and 104 go with the 4-1 and 4-2. I still think these are good values. I think these picks are some of the biggest buys in Dynasty, okay? And so I think acquiring early first right now is one of the best moves you can make if you can do it. The value is still being drugged down by the lack of depth in this class, which we're going to talk about. If you have an early first, you need to hold it at all costs. If you're watching this and you have an early first, you need to hold it at all costs. If you don't have an early first and you know somebody who's willing to sell one, yeah, I'm trying to pounce on it immediately. Now, let's talk about mid-first here. This is where, again, like you can start to get into this discussion of, like, is this a weaker class? Everybody in the mid-first is a wild card, but there are going to be 1 to 3 solid picks here, and there's always the chance of a value faller at, like, pick 5 or 6, where you've got guys taking their my guys up at the front of drafts, and then you have a Lemon or a Tate or a Tyson fall to you at the 105 or 106. In the mock draft, the 407, the 502, 601, and 606, that's for the 105 through 108. Again, from a startup value perspective, very affordable price for these mid ones, but the problem is this year's mid first is not near as strong as last year's mid first. But it is baked into the price a little bit in the sense that these mid firsts are a little bit cheaper this year. And so there are a couple possibilities here with mid first. Possibility number one is that the top tier expands into picks 5 and 6, which means if you end up buying into like the 105, 106 from a mid-level team in your Dynasty League this year, it might pay off big because you might get another guy that jumps up there. Maybe you get another second-round running back like Jonah Coleman gets drafted in the second to the Vikings or something. Oh, well, he would be going in the top 5 at that point. So you would see it's possible that tier expands, that top tier. Possibility number 2 is the middle tier is one big tier, and so you actually want to be at the end of the middle tier like the 109 or 108, 109 because it doesn't matter whether you're selecting somebody at the 105 or 108, you're getting the same caliber of player. Both of those are very possible, so it's hard to project where you want to be in the mid-first with us, kind of having a lot of unknowns with this class still. But what I will say is this, if you have a mid-first, you're probably a middling team in Dynasty in terms of like your fringe playoff or your reload that's scoring a lot of points. You should be trying to move up in the draft. I've never said this about, we never say this about first. We say never to move up. But this year, we have the analytical data to prove that the middle/later end of these firsts are going to be less valuable, not only less valuable, but also the hit rates are going to be much lower on them. And so, and it's historically the weakest, like mid-late first we've seen in a while. So middling teams should be trying to move up right now if you could possibly do that. And a lot of this is a team-to-team basis in terms of which moves you should be making. And so, that Nate and I look at your teams, we tell you, okay, this is where you should be, moving your first, or you should be trying to consolidate and trade your first. A lot of times people have 5 or 6 first. What should you do with those? And so it's a team-by-team basis, and we evaluate each team individually and each league individually based on settings, based on your league mates, based on things like that. And so if you'd like us to take a look at your team and tell you specifically what to do with your first, we can do that, and the rest of your roster, give you a plan for the beginning of your offseason. And if you still haven't had your trade deadline or don't have a trade deadline, some trades to make now for your contending, rebuilding, or reloading Dynasty teams, we have a Black Friday sale right now that we run once a year. It's good through this week. Any new members over on the site get 2 free team blueprints. So you get a blueprint for 2 of your teams if you sign up with code DOMAIN in the annual Mother Flocker tier. Plus, if you buy a blueprint right now, you get a freebie, you get a live league ticket, you get an infinite blueprint, or you get a swag box from us. So we've got 2 Black Friday deals going that you're not going to want to miss. Check out the link in the comments if you want to come join. But again, we can look at your team and give you the specifics on what you should be doing with your first in 2026. Now, we're going to get a little bit more negative now with this class because let's talk specifically about late first. And people want to talk about how, weak the 2026 class is. This is where the class is weak. The top of this class is not weak, and it stacks very well against any other class we've seen the last couple of years. There are plenty of elite prospects in this class that will be drafted in the first. And, there's always the possibility at this point with, all of these guys that have potential first-round draft capital, right? If Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M goes in the first. If Chris Bell goes in the first. If you have Denzel Boston up there as well. Like, this is where you could see the depth of this class expand. But any way you frame it, it is going to be a weaker late class than we have seen in recent years. And so for that reason, I don't like late first this year. Whereas last year, I was buying second-round picks in late first like crazy. And it paid off because last year, who were you getting in the early second, late first? You were getting Jackson Dart there, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, all great prospects. And that level of prospect will be going at the 105, 106 in this year's class. Late first are where this class actually fails a little bit. And so there's going to be a lot of QBs, in my opinion, that go in this late first, just with the fact that what we've seen trending in startup drafts, even with Superflex leagues, these quarterbacks have started trending down, wide receivers trending up. All the wide receivers and running backs are going to go at the top of these Superflex drafts and in your 1 QB drafts, of course. And so you're going to see a lot of QBs start to be selected in this late first range in a class that has some decent QB prospects, but not a ton of QB prospects with game-breaking dynasty or fantasy upside. And so late first, in my opinion, should be paired together for a top 4 pick. If I see, we're doing blueprints on live streams a lot where I see this guy's got 4 picks, his own, somebody else's that's mid, and 2 that belong to contenders. He's got, congratulations, you've got 2 26 firsts from contenders. And the number 1 move that I'm recommending to them is, hey, take those 2 first and see how far you can package them to move up in the draft. And my guess is, again, this is why you want to make the move now, because it's going to be a lot harder to do that in January and much harder to do it in April. But if you try to do it now during the season, you're going to catch people before they kind of get the idea about this class and realize the late first is actually very weak in this class. The early first is going to be just as strong as recent years. And so with that, I think you're pairing these first together and just moving up. We've never told people to do that before. But this class is very unique in the sense that even last year's class being deep, you've got guys that haven't hit yet. This year's class, these late firsts, I just don't think. Sure, there are going to be guys that are drafted in the late first that hit. There always are. They're not going to pass the analytics test. They're still going to hit. I totally understand that's going to happen. But I'm just saying in general, like the hit rates here in the later first this year in 2026 are not going to be great. And so these picks, though, these late first still will have value. And if you don't sell them now, you will have opportunities to sell them here in the offseason. This is the my guy range. This is where people want to trade into the first round and get guys that they believe in that should actually be going in the second or analytically are second or third round picks. But they want to trade up and take them now. Probably not third round picks, but like early seconds. They want to take them early. This is the my guy range. And so this is the start of the my guy range. And so you will see these late first have some value and have a lot of liquidity still because people do like to move up into the first. But, a lot of people are going to be asking, okay, if I have 2 seconds, is it still worth trying to trade up into the late first? In my opinion, I think this year what I'd like to do with seconds is move them for proven guys or young guys. I think there are plenty of guys that I like as buys you can pay for second round picks. But at the same time, late first is where this class gets really weak. And so I would avoid having late first if you can. If you're a contender with your late first, you need to be moving it right now. Let's talk about that right now. First of all, let's start with rebuilds and reloads. If you're a rebuild or reload, you are holding these picks at all costs, early, middle, or late, especially the early ones. The exception being if you can move the mid or late ones for early ones. But in general, these 2026 firsts are still buys because they are below what their expected market value is, and they will go up in the offseason. Okay, so as a rebuild, reload, you are holding these picks generally. And like I said, stacking late first, package them together to get early first. So you're taking your 2026 rookie pick value and moving it to some better 2026 rookie pick value, which again is that early first as opposed to that mid to late first. And so I like doing that. You can also make production lateral down tiers and get first on top. And so again, you're talking about a reload in particular, get a guy that's going to produce next year at the same level as the guy you're moving off of, get a first thrown in on top. Those are great dynasty trades. We'll talk about some of those types of trades here in a minute. But as a rebuild and reload, I like that. For contending teams, you are trading your first to win your league. There shouldn't be, if you are going for it in the playoffs right now, if you are in the playoff hunt, if you are trying to win a dynasty championship, my gosh, trade your first. There is no point in drafting a rookie on a team where you are trying to give it your all to win a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. And a lot of people will say, and first of all, it's not the only correct way to win a Dynasty Championship. You can win a Dynasty Championship a million ways. I'm just saying that regardless of how strong or weak the class is, or, maybe a lot of people like holding their first on contenders because they can reload and value inflation, whatever. And that's a perfectly fine strategy. I don't disagree with that. The problem is, you're not getting anything from the prospect that you're drafting in the late first until next year. And you need every resource on your dynasty team from a value standpoint that you have. Sorry if you can hear me hitting the table. Last time I said that was loud. You need every resource that you have going towards winning a championship this year and winning a ton of money. That's what you want to do. So as a contending team, you're trading your first win leagues, but do not. This is the main thing. If you're going to sell them, do not sell low on 2026 first. I see people selling 26 first for guys who should be going for seconds, and I just don't agree with that. And so make sure you're not selling low. And if you do trade them, here's the one caveat to that. You're going to have to be savvy in terms of making moves during the offseason. Don't expect to get back into the first round in the offseason because once we get to the offseason, the hype around these picks is going to go up, and it's going to be much harder to acquire them at that point. So here are a couple types of trades I like to make with rookie picks right now. I like the production lateral down tier. Again, this is where, especially for contenders or reloaders, if you're contending right now and you've got a guy that's, valued in the 4th round, it's averaging 13 points per game, and you can down tier to a guy that's going in the 9th that's averaging 13 points per game and get a 2026 first on top. I love that. That's one easy way to that's an easy way to get a 2026 first and to insulate your value, keep you, you lose value insulation with the guy you're selling, and obviously you're buying into an asset that's not a guarantee in the late first. However, you do get the 2026 first, which are, again, right now, currency in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Think about it this way. Currency in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now, or the best currency, rather, is productive players everywhere. And the offseason is picks. It always is. So you're buying to be able to make moves in the offseason. It's going to give you a lot of flexibility. The pick consolidation up tier we already talked about, stacking 2 26 firsts together to get to the early 26 first, which I think is the single most important and best move in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. You will thank me later on that. Obviously, don't trade the 105 and the 106 for the 103. But if you can get into the top 4 with 2 firsts, 108 or lower, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it in a heartbeat, in my opinion. The 2027 swap is another type of trade we can make with the rookie pick here. This is a random 2027 where you may be reloading and planning to contend next year, or even contending, or maybe you just know you're going to have a great team next year. And you can trade a random 27 for an early 26 because this class is weak. And people will say, no, nobody's doing that. Yeah, they are, because I've seen a ton of people do it, man. People are so down on this class and so high on 27 that you can do the pick swap. If you can use a 27 first to get into the early class of this year, I have no problem doing that. I have no problem doing that at all. So I would definitely be willing to do that, the 2027 pick swap for 2026. And then the last type of pick you can make for a rookie pick here, the trade you can make for a rookie pick here is the garbage to gold trade that I like to call the keep trade cut trade. It's where you package a bunch of crappy assets. Say like, I'm going to send you Aaron Jones and Trey Tucker and contending tight end Zach Ertz and this and that, and you're going to send me a first back. A lot of contending teams, especially newer Dynasty players or casual Dynasty players, will look at the number of assets there and take that over the actual quality of the assets themselves, and you can package a bunch of players together for a first-round pick. I love doing that right now, especially in shallow league formats where a lot of those guys aren't touching your bench. You could package a bunch of guys together to go get a first-round pick. It works in a bunch of different ways, but you could also do that with picks. You could package together a bunch of picks. The garbage to gold, again, it's the keep trade cut trade, because on keep trade cut, you can rig their trade calculator, package a bunch of guys that aren't worth anything, and make them worth gold. Which is, again, why keep trade cut's a bad trade calculator, but at the same time, you can use that to your advantage. And so I like making all of those picks. But regardless, with 2026 rookie picks, what you need to know, and if you know this early, you really will be an advantage this year, in my opinion. Of course, we could end up being wrong about this. Totally fine. I do understand that there are some of you out there that will say, oh, actually, you're totally misreading the top of this class, and the top of this class actually sucks. And I respectfully disagree. I think we have plenty of very, very you're saying that probably based on vibes, which I get, but we have a lot of very solid data stacking this class up against all the past classes for the last 10 years that says the beginning of this class, the top 4 picks, is going to be just as strong as the beginning of most classes. And so, if you don't want to buy into it, if you don't believe in the class, then don't buy into it. But from our analysis, what we have from the bakery, what we have from the prospect standpoint, it does look like the early first of this class is going to be dynamite. That's my opinion. I think the late first this year sucks. I'm trying to move up if I can. So let us know in the comments if you've been able to get any trades with rookie picks done. No Nathan today, as I should have said this at the beginning of the video, but Nate has a I don't know what he has, a cold or something. He can't talk. He sounds like a man now, which is, and he had a fever today. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do the video. So, rip Nate, but he'll be back next week. I do appreciate you guys. Happy Thanksgiving week. We appreciate all you guys so much. If you guys have any video requests or anything you'd like to see from us, drop it in the comments as well. But just know we're super thankful for all you guys. And drop a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed as well. We just passed 35K. We love you guys. Yeah, drop a like for the solo video as well. It's been a while since I did a solo video on the Dynasty channel. So love you guys. Peace out. See you here soon.